Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. I'm returning to you again for this worst to best Judas Priest, Judas slash KK Priest albums that I wanted to give you guys finally for some interesting. Well, the thumbnail is going to show Judas Priest records, but it is going to include KK's Priest along with it. So, just an FYI, just so you know, if you do see the thumbnail and it's a little misleading because I add KK's Priest on here, don't worry, I'm including it with it from what I've listened to. So, I'm going to discuss from 21 to 1 what albums I think are the worst and what I think are the best, and let you know my thoughts on each one as I go through. So, let's start at number 21 with Judas Priest with Demolition. This record sucked. It was one of the worst records in their discography. I know Tim Ripper Owens was part of the band at the time, till 2001 or 2, somewhere around there. But overall, it was not a good record. It sucked ass. It's just the way the songs were structurally sounding from what I listened to, and just Tim Ripper Owens couldn't sing very well through this era of Judas Priest. So, I mean, he's okay of a singer, but he's not mind-blowingly amazing of a singer. So I was just very disappointed with that record, and it's one of the worst records. So that is at the very top, at being the worst record in Judas Priest's discography. Judas Priest's discography is what I meant to say. I slurred with my wording. Next is number 20 with Judas Priest, Ram It Down. I tried liking this record, but I just couldn't find anything of value that I could come back to. Maybe a few songs, but not very many. But overall, I think Judas Priest, Ram It Down was probably their worst song to date, or worst album, second worst album, basically. It's not as bad as Demolition, but it is bad in the ranking system. So that's my number 20 pick. Number 19 is Judas Priest with Rockarola. I mean, there was one song on here that I did enjoy from Rockarola that I personally could get on board with, but everything else about it was pretty disappointing. The title track alone was pretty disappointing for the most part, and just execution-wise, I don't think this was one of my favorite records, but it was a disappointing one. So it's at my number 19. Can't remember all the songs because I know I breezed through the Judas Priest discography pretty quickly in the past few weeks. Because I knew it was going to take me a few weeks to get done with it, along with the next discography that I'm going to be checking out. But overall, Rockarola, number 19 for Judas Priest. Number 18 is Judas Priest with Jugulator. Now this was another disappointing one too. I mean, I did like some of the heavy moments with Tim Ripper Owens' aggressive vocals and the guitar work and drum work in it. That's the one highlight I can name off, but the songs came off cheesy and pretentiously bad. So it just didn't execute very well lyrical wise and all that stuff. I didn't find anything great about Jugulator. I mean, it was disappointing, but it wasn't one of the worst. But it's just a disappointing album, so that's my number 18 pick. Number 17 is KK's Priest, Sermons of the Sinner. Brothers of the Road is one of the worst songs. That's what really downgraded this record to giving it me a 6 out of 10, basically. To me giving it a 6 out of 10. I just was very disappointed with this one a little bit, but I wouldn't say it was terrible in any way, but I would say it's not the best thing I've listened to. The title track, Sermons of the Sinner, was alright for the most part, but overall, yeah, I wasn't really feeling for this record too much, but it was kind of meh. So, now to number 16, Judas Priest Turbo. We got Turbo Lover being the first song, kind of the title track of the record. But overall, it wasn't one of the best songs, but it was kind of meh. It was okay at best, but it was just in the middle with me. And then the second track on the record was kind of a little for the most part. But it wasn't terrible overall, so it's basically at my number 16, Turbo is. I did have some moments where I liked some songs, but I wouldn't say every song on here was amazing. They were just kind of meh songs, so that's my number 16. Number 15 is Judas Priest with Nostradamus. I did find some good things about this record, but for the most part, like, the title track was great. I believe it was the 17th song on the record that I did enjoy too. I have to go back and look, basically, because I know I breezed through Nostradamus real quickly. Sorry about the thunder thing. No, it wasn't track number 17. It was track... yeah, it was mostly Nostradamus. That was the only great song on here, sadly. Everything else was pretty good. So was Alone. That was the song I was thinking of, Alone. That was a pretty good song in its own way, but it wasn't one of my favorites. But Nostradamus was a personal favorite for sure. But overall, I think Nostradamus is at my number 15 because there were some tracks I could get on board with, and some tracks I could say they were kind of meh and mediocre. Number 14 is KK's Priest, The Sinner Rides Again. This one was another decent one. It was a step up from Sermons of the Sinner, which I was a little impressed with this. Like, The Sinner Rides Again was a strong one. I did review this record last night. If you have not checked it out, definitely go check out that review. I think you will enjoy it. The closing track was pretty solid for the most part, but most of them I think I gave 4 out of 5s. But overall, Tim Ripper Owens' singing in it was alright for the most part. It was a little better, but there were some underwhelming moments from time to time with his singing potential. And execution-wise, I think this record was fairly decent. Number 13 is Judas Priest with Stained Class. Now, this one was their 1977 record or something. Something like that. But it was overall very strong in its own way. It was a decent record at best. There were some moments I could get on board with some of the tracks, like, let's say, Beyond the Realms of Death was a solid one. There were some other ones I could get on board with too, like White Heat, Red Hot was actually pretty good. Exciter was a pretty strong one too. I think that was an opening track, but it's overall pretty good for the most part. So Stained Class had to be at number 13 because I deemed it to be at that spot because it was a fairly decent record. Number 12 is Redeemer of Souls by Judas Priest. Another decent one. There were some songs I could get on board. Like, the first half of it was pretty good. But then when you get to the second half, it kind of gets a little underwhelming and a step down. Like, I enjoyed some songs, like probably the first half of Redeemer of Souls. But then the second half kind of turned it to a slugfest from time to time. And it just kept repetitiously getting dull a little bit for the most part, but it's not terrible. It's just a decent record at best, so it's at my number 12. Number 11 is Judas Priest with Point of Entry. Did enjoy this one for the most part. It was fairly average. This is where we're getting into the better records in the top 10 and all that. Pretty soon I'll be mentioning the good records in the top 10 and all the way down to the best. So Point of Entry did have some solid tracks. I think Head Out on the Highway was one of the songs on the record. But it's overall, I'm just looking. Yeah, Head Out to the Highway, I meant to say. I'm thinking of the Born to Be Wild song by Steppenwolf, I believe. But overall, I think this record was fairly average, but Desert Plains was probably my favorite one on the record by Judas Priest. But overall, yeah, made it at my number 11. It came close to the top 10, but it wasn't top 10 worthy, basically. And at number 10, we have Judas Priest with Sad Wings of Destiny. This was a good record, for sure. It was their follow-up to Rockarola, and it was definitely a step in the right direction. And I really could appreciate this record a little more. I mean, it's not, like, perfect material, but it's still very strong in its own way. It's just a good record. I found some songs I could get on board with through this record, and overall, Rob Halford's singing through most of this record was pretty solid for this one. I mean, it still had a little bit of blues rock, but it still was good in its own way. So that's my number 10 pick. Number 9 is Judas Priest with Killing Machine. Now, another pretty good record for sure. This is where I'm getting into the pretty good albums, close to the very best albums. But overall, Killing Machine did have some strong material in its own way. And I think Rob Halford's singing through most of it was a lot better through this one. So that's my number 9 pick, Killing Machine. It was pretty solid and a strong release in its own way. Number 8 is Judas Priest with Sin After Sin. Now, there were some songs I had my critiques about, but nothing to the extent where I would say Sin After Sin is the worst record. It's actually a very strong record. Oh, I forgot to mention on Killing Machine, there's a song that basically depicts about my channel called Delivering the Goods. So, yeah, that song I really enjoyed for sure. I forgot to mention that when I talked about the number 9 pick, but now to continue forward. Other than that, Sin After Sin is a strong record. It had to be in my top 10 for sure. It was worthy to be in the top 10 at least, or at the number 8 pick, so that's what I chose at number 8. Number 7 is Judas Priest with Invincible Shield, the latest record. Panic Attack is probably my personal favorite on the record. So were some other ones that I enjoyed off the record, like Trial by Fire was a pretty good one, and I think Giants in the Sky was a solid one. The Lodger was solid, but it wasn't one of the best songs on the record. But overall, I think Invincible Shield did have some good material. So was the title track. Very strong, too. Strong material for the most part for the first 8 or 9 songs on the record. But overall, yeah, I picked it at number 7. Number 6 is Judas Priest with Angel of Retribution. Another really good record I enjoyed. It was the comeback for Rob Halford when he came back to the band in 2005, and it was a strong release for sure. And I really enjoyed majority of the songs on this record. For the runtime it went for, I was very impressed. And a good, strong record to get them out of disaster, which was Demolition. So that's my number 6 pick. Number 5 is Judas Priest with Defenders of the Faith. Very good one. I had to put it in the top 5, of course. It's a really good record and very enjoyable for sure. And I highly recommend you guys check this record out if you have not listened to Defenders of the Faith by Judas Priest. It's really strong for sure. Very good material. Now we're going to talk about number 4, which is British Steel by Judas Priest. Does have songs like Breaking the Law, Living After Midnight, and very good material for the most part. There were some good tracks that I enjoyed from this record. Even regular songs on here were pretty strong for the most part. So it was a personal favorite record, and it had to be in my top 5 for sure. So that's my number 4 pick. Number 3 is Judas Priest with Screaming for Vengeance. Now, it came close to being the runner-up, but there was another one that was the runner-up, and it was a album I will be talking about shortly. So, Screaming for Vengeance, the title track is great. Electric Eye actually has been a grower on me. Even though it sounded weird at first with the melody, it still was a very strong release. With You Got Another Thing Coming, the long version is the best, for sure. And I really enjoyed You Got Another Thing Coming and Screaming for Vengeance, Electric Eye. Many other tracks on here were pretty epic, like Take These Chains was a good one. So, very strong release. Number 2 is Judas Priest with Firepower. I said it wrong. Please forgive me on that. Firepower. I think Firepower was a great record, No Surrender being my personal favorite. The only song I had an issue with was Sea of Red, but this could have been worthy to being one of my favorite records in their discography, but it was a strong release. Firepower was a great one, Lightning Strike was great. Overall, Spectre was a strong track, I really enjoyed that one. Trader's Gate was a very good one. Rising from Ruins was pretty strong. Necromancer was my favorite. There's quite a bit of songs on here that I really enjoyed from Firepower. No Surrender was my personal favorite, for sure. Even though it was close to the end of the record, it was a very strong track with how Rob Halford was singing it for the most part. So, great track, great album, and Firepower at number 2 as the runner-up. And at number 1, drum roll please, Painkiller by Judas Priest, one of the best records in their discography. It was the departure record for Rob Halford, because it was the last record with Rob Halford before Tim Ripper Owens came in, and then Rob Halford came back in 2003 or 4 for their Angel of Retribution record. But overall, this was one of their best departure records with Rob Halford in it. And it took them 7 years to make Jugulator, which, not a great effort. But overall, I think Painkiller was my personal favorite track. There were some other tracks on here I really enjoyed. But overall, great material on this record, for sure. And definitely a personal favorite record of mine. It was the follow-up to Ram It Down, which is a much stronger follow-up than Ram It Down. But in its own way, I really enjoyed Painkiller, and it had to be at my number 1. So that is going to be it for my worst to best Judas / KK's Priest album rankings video. I hope you enjoyed the worst to best Judas / KK's Priest albums ranking video. I did the best I could to make it as good as possible. I tried to make it to where I was talking about some of the tracks. I know I had to go back and look at what I reviewed and all that on my notebook, and basically there was a lot of songs on Judas Priest's discography, but 2 albums from KK's Priest, which I did check out, and I gotta say KK's Priest is decent, but they're not great. Their last record was decent, that I just listened to recently, but overall, I think Judas Priest did have an interesting discography, a very good discography, but also there were some bumps in the road with some of their material. But overall, I hope you enjoyed this worst to best Judas / KK's Priest albums ranking video, and I will be returning to you tomorrow for Iron Maiden to start that off. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next review.